Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there. Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
My name is Richard Furr, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family, I'm cloud hired.
So I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired.
Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the GlowCloud team.
Welcome, everyone. Hi, I'm Mike Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers. I'm also here with Alonzo Coleman. He's part of Go Cloud Careers. He's a great cloud architect. He's also a great business executive with a lot of business acumen to help you in your careers. And we're here today to help you build your best technology career. Perhaps you'd like to become a cloud architect, or you'd like to know the difference between a cloud architect and a cloud engineer. Perhaps you'd like to know how to earn more in your technology career, how to get promoted, how to get your first cloud architect job. Whatever the case is, we are here to help you in building an elite cloud computing career, an elite technical career, an elite networking career, an elite security career, elite architecture career, even elite IT architecture career. That's why we're here, to assist you in building your best tech careers. I've been working now in technology, actually since 1993, but I'm going to call it 1996 because it feels better saying only 25 years. I've been working with cloud since 1993, with the ISDN cloud in 1993, the Frame Relay cloud in 1996, the ATM cloud in 1998, the VPLS cloud of 2000 and 2001. Actually, 2001 when my team actually helped invent the VPLS cloud, and all the public clouds between. And I've consulted organizations on building private, public, hybrid, multi-cloud organizations forever. And I've also spent over 2 decades helping people just like you get your first tech job, get promoted in technology in your career, and literally speaking, move up. And that's why I'm here. See, you've got 2 options in your technology careers. Option 1 is you can just sort of fumble around and make a lot of mistakes, which is honestly and sadly what 90% of the population does. Option 2 is you could do what I did when I started my career, is you could ask a tech executive what they want in the perfect person in your career. And within 2 years, I was a principal architect, and my career just shot up and kept getting better and better and better. Why? Because I didn't make the mistakes, because I asked someone who was an expert. And they told me, this is what we want. And when you know exactly what the goal is, pretty easy to achieve it. But if you don't know the end goal, you don't even know where to begin. So that's why we're here to help. So ask us your questions. And please don't be shy. You know, Alonzo will tell you, people send me messages every day. I want a private consult. And we offer private consults at $1,200 an hour. And we're a little over 24 weeks wait to do them. That's how much of a demand people are asking us. So I come here free once a week. I also hold a webinar once a week, and that's also free. So here's our way to help provide service to the cloud computing community. So I'm going to tell you about something. If you want to know how to get your first cloud architect job, not only can you ask now, but there's a completely free document for you to download. We wrote it. It's an ebook. It'll cover every skill you need as a cloud architect. Tyrone will pop that in the chat box of LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you may be at. And tomorrow, we have a completely free webinar on how to get your first cloud architect job. We'll present for about 30 minutes on everything you need to know. And we'll spend about an hour and a half live on Zoom, where you can ask questions to build your most elite technology career. And again, completely free. While we're at the free things that we want to do to help you for your career, we have a document about why tech skills are not enough, especially in today's world. And this will cover the skills that'll help you earn more, get hired faster, get promoted better, and it's everything we can do to help you build your elite technology career, whether that be in network architecture, enterprise architecture, cloud architecture, AI architecture, or any of the cool things that are out there. Now, Lonzo, why don't you say hello to everybody? Welcome, everyone. And please ask us questions so we can help you.
Thank you, Mike. Everyone, I'm just glad to have you all here. It's a wonderful opportunity. I love speaking about the cloud. I love being here at Go Cloud Careers and sharing all the knowledge that we have about what it means, what it takes, and what the experience is about being a cloud architect. There are so many avenues and so many opportunities that encompass what being a cloud architect is. And unfortunately, there are a lot of inaccuracies about what it takes to get there. People talk about coding. People talk about a lot of different things based off of assumptions or maybe things that they have found on the internet. But unfortunately, again, it's not based off of their prior experience. This is guesswork. And but what the good news is that we have done the work. We have sat in the seats. We have communed and communicated in these roles as cloud architects. And we're here to help you sift from the wheat from the chaff, if you will, to get to your goals as quickly as possible with the competency you need. So please ask your questions. We're excited to see you, and we're excited to have you here. There's got to be some questions out there, everyone. Let's
Don't be shy, everybody. We're not scary people. We're not like vampires. Sorry, I've been watching the Vampire Diaries and now the originals. I finished all 8 seasons of the Vampire Diaries. And now my wife and I are watching the originals. Well, I should say I am, and my wife sort of tolerates it, but that's neither here nor there. So ask us your questions. It looks like we have 1 or 2 questions we can do with Tyrone, and then ask us some questions.
I think Christian Smith may be the first question, or maybe Ken Sherman. From
We'll
Telcom.
get to all of them.
Okay. Ken Sherman, will 2024 usher in a new intro for redecorating purposes?
You know, for me, I'm not really a big fan of redecorating. I am a fan of improving constantly and getting better every single day and constantly honing and constantly thinking. So generally speaking, New Year's for me is just like any other day. I don't wait until New Year's to try and make something better. As soon as I find something is suboptimal, I attack it like a lion. And I will keep attacking until we've improved it. So personally, for me, New Year's is just another day. Now, I do like that it's New Year's. It's a chance for me to take my wife out to a dinner. And it gives my wife and me the opportunity to spend some time together. Maybe stay home and drink some nice champagne together. Have some nice dinner brought in for something. Or I thought I was going to be a chef in my youth. And I love to cook, so it'll give me a chance where maybe I have a day off to take with my wife. But redecorating, possibly no. Now, will our video editors get creative and do more creative things? Probably yes, but our focus is always on quality. And here's what I mean. If I look at what 99% that's actually out there, I see what I call lipstick on a pig. And what that really is where basically somebody comes out there and they take a garbage something and they put good paint on it and they try and make it great. That's lipstick on a pig. Now, for me, I just want to make things great. If I had two options, a car with scratches on it that ran perfectly, or a beautifully painted car that didn't go anywhere, I want the car with scratches on it. I am a really basic guy when I have the opportunity. Now, granted, in designing billion-dollar architectures, I've gotten real comfortable with Armani suits and Canali suits and expensive dinners and 25-year-old scotch and everything because it's required for the job. I mean, it's not like an architect is dealing with DevOps or SysOps or coding or configuring. We're entertaining clients, we're giving presentations, we're leading large groups of individuals, we're designing systems, we're managing stakeholders. So I wear the uniform when I need to. But for redecorating, not me, not at all. I like things the way they are. I like my plants over here. My cat likes my plants over here. And that's it. But Ken, I love you. I love the questions you asked.
From Christian Mike, what is a good way to start a good relationship with a recruiter that you may ask to hire you in the future?
Christian, great point. So there's honestly two ways. And I've done both. And I've had success with both. The first one is to pick up your phone and reach out and touch someone and see who takes your call, see what they actually do, what they think, get a feel for them, get a feel for their sales ability, and I highly recommend that. And that works. It works better for someone like me that's got a perfect resume. Now, if you don't have a perfect resume, here's something that I can highly recommend. If I were to write one single good LinkedIn post where I show something. Now, a good LinkedIn post is not, I configured a web server. That's a horrible LinkedIn post. You don't want to do anything like that. Mm-hmm. A LinkedIn post isn't, these people stink. That's the way to never get hired in your entire life. But if I were to write a LinkedIn post about a problem in the financial industry and a technology strategy to fix it, I will have 20 to 50 recruiters that are knocking at my door, sending me instantly connection requests to talk. They're going to try and get on the phone with me instantly from one good post. And why is that? The reason is the following. When you're really good, and you put out really good content, the world comes to you because, Christian, if I interviewed 1,000 people, I can tell you here's what it's going to be like. If I ask someone how to design a secure demilitarized zone for a web application, I'm going to get WAF and Shield, which is not a secure demilitarized zone for pretty much anything. But people aren't going to know what goes into it. They're not even going to know what a demilitarized zone is. Even if they've taken the AWS Advanced Security and the Certified Solution Architect Professional, they won't know. In fact, I interviewed 1,000 AWS people. They did all these silly cloud projects that taught them everything other than architecture. And then I asked them architecture questions. And again, poof, no answer. So by going out there and showing stellar communication skills and knowledge, the world will come to you. What else will get the world to come to you? Well, what do employers really look for, Christian? They look for someone that is competent, first. So if you're out there and you're showing your competency, yeah, now you're going to do something and the world is going to be going for you. So if you're showing competency, this is fantastic. Now, what else do employers look for? They look for people that they can trust. They look for people with good integrity. They look for people with great communication skills, people with great energy, enthusiasm, passion. That's what they're looking for. They are looking for. They're looking for team players and someone that's willing to go above and beyond. So if you're constantly going out there and building your brand and showing this and writing great content, the world will come to you. So I like, a little bit like the Bell used to say, reach out and touch someone, get on the phone with someone. And I like a little bit about planting the right bait and putting bait out there. See, Christian, I've never applied for a job in my entire life. That's not true. My wife did actually apply for a job at Cisco for me about 20 years ago. I was working at a company I loved. I was in Dubai. I hadn't made it home forever. And one day I bought a new Mac for the house. My wife thought it was cute, so she let me spend like $5,000 on a Mac Pro like 25 years ago. And it was a really cool system, by the way, but that's neither here nor there. And she thought it was so cute. She picked it up and she actually sent my resume into Cisco and they called me for that. So that's really where I'm at, and kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So yes, go out there and reach out and touch someone and you'll be good to go.
From Telcom again. Good evening from South Africa. I don't know how to transition from junior architect to senior in a strategic role. How do I start thinking at a strategic level, Mike?
Telcom, great question. So here's the difference between a real architect and someone that wants to get an architect job, and people that get paid $500,000 a year versus architects that get paid $150,000 a year. So let's talk about the difference. What is it? Well, as my manager told me 30 years ago, no, it wasn't 30 years ago, it was about 24 years ago, 25 years ago. And he said, Mike, would you like to know the difference between a $150,000 systems engineer like you and a $300,000 architect? And I said, yeah, please tell me. He said, it's the impact that you can make at your client. He said, and how do you make a bigger impact? He said, well, it's your ability to exercise influence. What do I mean by that, Mike? It means the ability to be able to learn about a customer's business problem and influence the CEO to buy the right things to make their business better. He said, it's your ability to build a team and influence that team to work with you. And he said, because you can be a one-man wrecking crew, which you'll never be successful, Mike. Or he said, you could bring a team of 50 people along with you and make them a 50-man elite band. And I was like, okay, I want that. So then he said, Mike, it's your business acumen. He said, if you're going to help clients solve business problems and all you know is tech, he said, you'll be nothing. He said, because they're going to be talking about increasing revenue or, trying to escalate EBITDA or reducing operational expenditures or making rent versus buy decisions based on their weighted average cost of capital. And he said, and if you don't know this, what kind of advice can you give? He said, see, that's one of the secrets. He also said it has to do with your leadership skills. He said the ability for you to build, command, and lead a team. He then said it's also your CXO relevancy. This was 25 years ago. He said, I can't put a sales engineer in front of the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar business. He said, I can put an architect there. He said, so I want someone that focuses on the business versus focusing on the tech. Then he said, Mike, do you know the difference between an architect that earns $150,000 and one that earns $500,000 a year? And this is 25 years ago. I know architects that were earning $500,000 a year. He says, it's your sales skills. He says, look, your bonus, a lot of it's based on how much you can sell. So you can be one of those people that's all proud of being able to do a proof of concept themselves and doing it by themselves. Where he said, Mike, you could be a leader. You could bring a bunch of smart engineers to do the proof of concept. You can learn how to sell and you can earn another $500,000 each year. He said, which one do you want to be? So Telecom Sim 2022, love that you're in South Africa. Tyrone from our team is also in South Africa. It's your business acumen. Now, interestingly enough, as we look for jobs that require business acumen, the average salary is $558,000 a year. And you can look straight at salary.com, but let's look at some jobs. Here we've got a global account manager, which is a sales rep, business acumen job. You're not selling if you don't understand business. At Amazon with the pay range of $255 to $441. Who gets $441? The people that can sell. How about a senior director at Cisco Systems? $527 on average with a range of $417 to $689. Business acumen. Let's look at some other jobs. Architect jobs are all business acumen too. Senior director at IBM, all right, it pays a little less, $399 on average. but with a range of 331 to 521. You know, I just got these straight off of Glassdoor, but they're exactly what we see. Senior director at Palo Alto, another tech company. Here you go, 540 average salary with a pay range of 425 to 709. And then the architect jobs. The principal architect is a business acumen job. Here we go at Google, average pay 508 with a pay range of 394 to 677. And of course, we have Amazon, who typically pays the least of these roles, 372 is average, but still they have the range of 291 to 491. And then we've got Microsoft, another business acumen job, and Microsoft is big on business. And it's 379 is the average pay with a pay range of 300 to basically 495. That's the difference. So focus on your business acumen. That's why in our training, we've got so much business acumen, because it's the difference between hiring a techie that wants to pretend they're an architect and an actual architect moving into it. Now, here's the thing, Telecom Sim. I don't have students that get junior architect roles. Our students get regular architect roles, not associate roles, or their junior training roles, not junior roles. Our people get real architect jobs, like Ivan Tamba at AWS, for example, or Coyote or Jordan Kitko, all at AWS. And they weren't hired as associate architects. They were real architects. Or Balwinder, who was a stay-at-home mom who got a real architect job at Microsoft. Or Al Legister, who recently got a senior architect job, senior solutions architect job over there at Deloitte. Or what do you call it? Wallace Sagana, who never worked in tech, who got an enterprise architect, which is senior to all these jobs at JP Morgan Chase. Or Daniel Bosu, who I love this kid. Almost wish he was my son. He had such a great attitude. But, you know, he was 20 years old when we trained him, dropped out of high school, didn't have a high school diploma, and he was hired by JP Morgan Chase as a solution architect with the right training. But he had the business acumen. And I can give you examples like this all day. I pick these because they're the ones that remain in my head, because they're the people that I know the most. So I always go to the people that I know the most because they're always in my mind, and I always like watching them. Ivan Tamba today just got promoted to Solution Architect 2 over at AWS. We trained him. He got hired when he was in college. So you can see these are there. So that's how you do it. You focus on these things.
From Krishna, what knowledge on DevOps, for example, Docker and Kubernetes, should be enough for a cloud architect?
Krishna, we don't do anything with DevOps. So if you ask me if you should learn to fly your own private plane or study DevOps, I would tell you to fly a plane because it'll get you to your clients quicker. There is no DevOps in architecture. Our job is to take a business problem and solve it with technology. If you work at Amazon, Microsoft, Cisco, IBM, Deloitte, Accenture, KPMG, Capgemini, Oracle, you will not be allowed to touch your customer's technology. We don't do that. So we design a solution, we present a solution, and we sell a solution. That's really what we're actually talking about. Design, present, and sell. So Krishna, what do? Here's the architecture process. First, we go to the executives of our client, and we ask them about the vision for their business. What do you need to achieve this year? What do you need to achieve 5 years from now? What do you need to achieve 10 years from now? And even where do you want to be 20 years from now? And then Krishna, we've got to go to the client. We've got to map out the business processes. What's the customer journey like? How does the company make its money? How do the supply chain partners, if appropriate, work? How does the product get made? How are the customers serviced? All of that. We've got to map out those processes. And then we have to go work with the client to say, okay, well, if in the future you want the business to be here, here's the way the business is going to have to work on. We have to re-architect business processes with real architects with our client. Now, after we've re-architected these business processes based upon the ideal goal, then we can examine the organization's technology system. What's their network look like? What do their data centers look like? What's their cloud environment look like? What do their applications look like? What is whatever? And then we can say, now what do we need to get to that future business goal and those future business processes? And then we work backwards and then we select our technologies. Now, we document the architecture, meaning not just a picture, but a document, a written document, explain it. We will be giving a tremendous amount of presentations. We will have to meet with various stakeholders in the organization to make sure that our architecture is going to work for that organization and make it successful. Then what are we going to do? We're going to try to sell it to the client, which involves a lot of schmoozing, a lot of entertainment, a lot of sales. We're going to help negotiate the deal. And we're going to write a business case with the account teams. And once it's done, Krishna, we're off on a new team. And there's a DevOps engineer in another team that's going to go deploy this thing, or a cloud engineer. So we don't touch the tech. So don't learn Don't learn DevOps. Now, you have to understand containers and container orchestration, so knowledge of Kubernetes has to be there, but more about how are you going to design your Kubernetes clusters and where do they need to work and how do they need to work as opposed to building them. And Docker may be used and it may not be used because the new versions of Kubernetes are trying to get rid of some of those Docker runtime modules. But as it stands, Kubernetes is a container orchestration and Docker is a great container runtime module. So you have to so you need to understand all the networking things. Servers, server virtualization, containers, container orchestration, storage area networks, networking, load balancers, DNS, firewalls, IDS, IPS systems. That's the cloud. This stuff is what techies do when they configure it, but it has nothing to do with what cloud architects do. Great question, Krishna.
From Lopez, Mike, does Go Cloud Careers have a network of recruiters that we can talk to when we're ready to interview?
We've got a network recruiters, hundreds of recruiters on staff, but we're also going to teach you how to build your own network because you're going to need your own recruiter network all the time. Now, I speak with my friend Christina Marino once a week, and who's a great recruiter. She's the CEO of a recruiting firm in New York, but I also periodically speak to a lot of other recruiters. The point is we have them, but we're going to teach you how to get yours because a recruiter is not just a tactical thing. It's a long-term strategy. You've got to have somebody on your side. Financially successful people have a good financial advisor. They typically keep a good lawyer around. They typically keep a doctor. You keep a couple of good recruiters around and you build yourself a team. So yeah, we've got lots of them. But, here's the thing. Build your own, and we'll teach you how to build your own because we don't want to just give you fish. We want to, because if I give you fish, you had a good dinner, right? I gave you fish, but if I teach you how to fish and I turn you into an expert fisherman, you, your family, your village, everybody's well fed for the rest of your life. So that's my focus. My focus is making you great.
Next, from Cloud Station, Mike, could you please elaborate on cloud security and why it's important for cloud architects to lock down their customers' systems in layers from possible attacks?
Sure. So let's talk about cloud security. What is it? It's security. The cloud is no different other than your traditional data center, other than the cloud is less secure. Wait, what? The cloud is less secure? Yes, the cloud is less secure. And here's the reason why. When it comes to networking and data centers and security, in our own environment, we can build any level of security we want. You can put Alonzo and I in the same subnet and make it that we can't talk to each other because we're in a private VLAN. Can't do anything like that on the cloud. Now, we could, in our data center, we could do it at the switch level, and we could do it at an access control list level, and we could do it at a security group level or host-based firewall level. In the data center, in the cloud, we can only do it layer 3. The data center, we've got more. In my data center, if Alonzo wanted to plug in his computer, poof, guess what? I could have the switch port shut down, so he can't even access the system if he's not on the allowed MAC address list. That's on a system. So if I wanted to hire Navy SEALs with machine guns standing on the roof of my data center to keep bad guys out, I can do that in a private data center. I can't do that on the cloud. Now, in the private data center, I could say Alonzo's traffic goes before Chow and my team's traffic. Not that I would do that, but I could. But the point is in a private data center and a private network, you could prioritize your mission critical traffic. And that way, if your systems got infected with a worm or a virus, guess what? You can make sure the critical traffic goes through before the worm or virus. I can't do any of that stuff on the cloud. But when it comes to security, it's really about using layers. So let's say you wanted to come at me from the web. Let's say I've got a web server. I'm going to create my own demilitarized zone, which is an area outside my network, which is semi-protected, but not completely protected. And maybe I'll use a next generation firewall between, let's say a network load balancer in front of 2 next generation firewalls. And then maybe I'll use another network load balancer in front of 2 next generation firewalls. Then I might have another network load balancer in front of an IDS IPS system. Then I might actually have an access list in the subnet. Then I probably at that point would put a security group on the load balancer. Then I'm going to have web servers that are behind them, which of course those web servers are going to be hardened operating systems. We're going to put some host-based IDS IPS systems, a host-based firewall on them, some anti-malware protection. And why? Well, if you can get past my Palo Alto firewalls, which you probably can't, guess what? You probably aren't going to get my checkpoint on my Cisco firewalls. And if you do, my IDS IPS systems will stop you. And if they don't, the security group and access list are going to help a little bit. And if not, I got you on servers that are there and that are hardened and are going to be able to react to things, let alone identity and access management and the entire strategy. So keep that in the back of your mind. That's why we must do layers. We have to make it hard, because I can tell you right now, you go very simple with security. You give me a high-powered computer with a good CPU and a couple of good GPUs, and I'm hacking into your system with some Kali Linux tools in a matter of minutes to hours. So we have to make it hard. And if you look at battle and if you look at war, they have frontline people, they have secondary people, they've got back-end people. It's the same reason. It's the same reason when they play baseball, that first, second, and third people can generally hit the ball. That fourth person that plays is generally a big hitter in case they can get a home run with somebody on base. And the back end of that is placed with people that don't do as well. And that's why they orchestrate these things for the same reason. So we have to lock down our systems. The average cost per person is between $150 and $250 that gets a security breach. So, look at 23andMe. They're on AWS. They just lost 6.9 million records. Imagine notifying 6.9 million people that their private DNA, which is related to their health, is now on the public, and having to pay $200 for $600 million, 6.9 million people. Now think of the brand damage that's associated with that. Pretty scary. So that's why security matters.
Again, from Lopez, how is the job market for cloud architects going into 2024?
Lopez, the more technology that comes, like AI, the more architect jobs. So I want to separate architects versus engineering. So we train architects. We used to train architects and engineers, but we stopped selling our engineering training program. Engineering is probably the worst career someone could possibly go to, and I'll explain to you why. Specifically, anything related to hands-on skills, such as coding or configuring. So architecture, the more tech that comes out, more jobs. The more complexity, more jobs. The more organizations realize that tech is critical to their business, more jobs. So architect jobs always go up. In fact, I have people right now interviewing at AWS for solution architect jobs, and they're on their last set of interviews that have never worked in tech before. At the same time, AWS is laying off engineers. They just laid off 900 people in the, Alexa division. So what you see is people that are tied to revenue, like architects, get hired in bad economies. Slower than they would in a good economy, but still hired. But back-end people that cost more, software engineers, DevOps engineers, cloud engineers, sysadmins, those people get laid off. So the economy's not looking great, but people are constantly adding new architects and our people are still getting hired. So the market looks great.
And from 26, Timor, hello. After the Cloud Architect program, if you want to specialize in security architect, you recommend CISSP. CISSP requires 5 years experience to take their exam.
Not exactly. So 26, Timor. The only security certification I will ever recommend, I'm going to say this again, is the CISSP. You can take it with zero security experience. I just had a student, Richard, that took it and he's never worked. Now, here's the thing. You can take the exam, you can pass the exam, but you have to put it on your resume, CISSP-associate. And every hiring manager knows you passed the CISSP, you did all the requirements, you just don't have 5 years experience, and your associate turns into the full CISSP after 5 years. So I will never recommend another security certification other than the CISSP for architects. And yes, you can take it. And yes, I took it when I had no security experience. And yes, I've had tremendous number of students take it with no experience, and they put CISSP-associate. So that's what you do. I would not even waste my time with the AWS Advanced Security. That's a joke. It's not even an intro to advanced security. I don't recommend the CompTIA Security Plus at all by any stretch of the imagination. I don't recommend any of those cloud security things because they don't even scratch the surface of security. I recommend the CISSP. I will continue to make that recommendation because it is the only certification that when I speak to employers for people that get paid over $100,000 a year, they care about for architects. So it continues to be that one. So take it, read the fine print, and go take it and pass it, and just put -associate next to your name. And if a hiring manager asks you, what do you mean CISSP associate? And yes, I took the exam, I passed the exam, but I'm not allowed to call myself anything other than an associate until I have a few more years experience. And then prove to them you're competent, and you'll be good to go.
From Cloud Station again, how does cybersecurity relate to cloud security architecture?
Cybersecurity is cloud security architecture. They're not different. So, here's the thing. If you were to take a vendor certification, which teaches you nothing, they would tell you that you could use the cloud provider security services to lock your stuff down. Now, I ask you this question. If you had to go in the jungle and you had to go through bush and tree, would you get a Swiss Army knife with a blade that looks the size of my finger? Or would you get a machete and fight your way through it? So the key is the cloud providers are like Swiss Army knives. They're jack of all trades. Here, we'll do your servers, your server virtualization, your containers and container orchestration, your storage area networks. We've got your databases that we've made ourselves, even though other people do a better job at it. We've got our security tools we make ourselves. Use those, and you're using a Swiss Army knife when you probably want to use something that's been customized and built to do the job. So for me, cybersecurity and cloud security are the same. And here's why. What if I told you, Cloud Station, that 98% of organizations are multi-cloud? 98%. 98%. And that means that if you wanted to work multi-cloud, guess what? You have to be able to use tools that work multi-cloud, which is, again, none of the cloud security stuff either. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So cybersecurity is cloud security. Whether a cybersecurity person is doing it in the data center with a physical next-generation firewall with a load balancer front-ending it, so they could use two, or they're doing it on the cloud and they've got a virtual load balancer instead of two virtual firewalls running the same software, it's the same thing. The same security policy applies. You have to do the same training for your people in your organization. You have to create the same identity and access management systems on and off the cloud. You're going to be using the same firewalls on and off the cloud. You're going to be doing the same networking things on and off the cloud. The only difference is in the private data center, you've got more control. But otherwise, it's the same. I mean, it doesn't change. It's almost exactly the same. So cybersecurity is cloud security. Love that question. So if you're out there and you want help, please ask us questions so we can assist you. We've got time to answer your questions, and we want to. Ask your questions in the chat box.
From Freedom Lands, what are good ways to do hands-on training for a solution architect career?
You could take our training, it's hands-on training. So here's hands-on training, Freedom Lands. Go and interview a CEO about their business. Go and interview. Go talk to the stakeholders of a business. Go and map out somebody's business architecture, how they run in their business. Then go and evaluate what's in their data center and find out what's working, what's not working. And they'll create a design for the organization to improve their business performance. Now, document the architecture, present the architecture, sell the architecture, close that $100 million deal or whatever it is, and go off to the next customer. That's how you get art design training. Or you could take a course like ours where our students basically do that in each class. They work from the business all the way down. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So that's the way to do it. Now, this is not cloud administration. You can learn that by yourself by doing cloud labs. Cloud engineering, people could learn how to code, they could learn Terraform, they can learn Linux, they can do all that stuff. But architecture, you've got to be taught. These are the three careers that I know you need to be taught. One, how to fly an airplane. You know why you need to be taught how to fly an airplane? Because if you manage to get that airplane 35,000 feet in the air, guess what's going to happen? If you don't know how to fly it, it's going to crash to the ground. And that's bad for you and the passengers in the plane. Now here, I went to school to learn how to practice internal medicine. Guess what? I got thousands of drugs to choose from, thousands of surgical options I have for my patients. I better know which one I'm choosing that it works. So you can't become a doctor without training. You're going to design an architecture for business. You're going to have to get trained by someone. And it's not how to configure. It's not how to code. It's not how to do anything.
Debbie, what is cloud computing, Mike?
Debbie, all cloud computing really is renting space in somebody else's network in a data center. A cloud is just a virtual data center. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So cloud computing is instead of an organization building a data center with their own servers and their own storage area networks and their physical load balancers and their firewalls, keeping the back of my, all that. is there. When in a cloud, it's the same thing. So cloud computing is just renting space in someone else's data center. Now in your private data center, you build it. When you build it, you have complete control over it. You have better performance in what you build, and you've got better security. But to build your data center, you need Cisco certified internet experts like me to get that networking right. You need really good data center engineers. You got people that know everything from power to cooling. So it's there. With the data center, somebody manages all that to you. So if you've been to a hotel, Debbie McDonald, you've been using cloud computing. You can either build a house for yourself or rent space in somebody else's hotel. It's still the same property, has the same running water, has the same air conditioning, has the same showers, same everything. Hotel versus house. Cloud computing is a big hotel. Your house is something you build.
Lopez again. What's the biggest obstacle that new cloud architects face after finishing your program?
Lopez, architects don't have obstacles finishing our program for the most part. They get hired while in the program. In fact, graduation for us, Lopez, is when the person is hired. So our architects don't have problems if they do the work. Now, I will tell you this. I've had plenty of students that bought our program and never attended class. In fact, somebody reached out to me today and they said, Mike, I've been in your program and I'm struggling. And I looked at their course there. And when we looked at the course, they did 1% of the course. And my response is, no wonder you're struggling. Come to class, do the other 99% and you'll be successful. So because we have a program which is taught by architect experts that each have 25 years experience, you know, the key there is as follows. Our architects are doing architect work. And because they're doing architect work, they get hired. So nobody has any problems in our program. As long as they come to class, do the work, they should be hired.
That's the main thing, Mike. We do so much. We build so much. Mike, Chris, myself, we're always in the proverbial lab trying to make it efficient, a full experience for you to create a well-rounded 360-degree competency framework for you to rely on to be successful in your career. But we have to stress the program works only if you do. We laid it out for you A to Z in the quickest, most efficient, but fulfilling way possible. But we encourage strongly that our students currently and our aspirants who want to be a part of our program do the work. It's fulfilling. It gets you what you need to do, gets you where you need to be. And once you're going to start interviewing, you're going to really realize how much you've learned and how valuable that is to your hiring recruiters. From Daniel, could you explain the role of a pre-sales architect, Mike, and how it compares to other architect roles?
Absolutely, Daniel. So there's basically two sets of architects, and they do the same job, whether you're pre-sales or you're post-sales. Here's the key. The architect designs the solution, presents the solution, and sells the solution. And so let's talk about the tale of two architects. One works for a bank, and one works for a company like AWS, Azure, Google, Accenture, Deloitte, KPMG, Capgemini. So most architects are pre-sales. Now, let's kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So here's the thing. If I work for Cisco as an architect or AWS, here's what my job is. I will go to a client, I ask about their business problems, I design a solution, I present it to them, I sell it, and then I go to another company and do the next one. Now, I'm an architect. Let's say I work for a bank. So what do? Working for the bank. I ask the executives, what is the goal for your business in the future, which is the same thing that somebody does from AWS, Azure, Google, Cisco, the same thing. Then the architect goes back to their team, and then they go build a team of people. So I'm going to design an architecture. If I work for Cisco, AWS, Azure, I'm going to find cloud security architects, maybe some developers. I'm going to find some big data people. I'm going to find some IAM people. I'm going to find some security people. Now I work for the big bank. What am I going to do? After I spoke to the executives to find out what they need, I got to design this thing, right? So I'm going to build a team of the people that work at the company. The same developers, the same data scientists, the same security people. So in either case, I take a team. Now, if I work for the vendor, I create the design with the people at the vendor. Now, if I work for the company, I'm going to be working with the key people in this company, and I'm going to be calling the vendors. I'm going to be working with AWS, Azure, Cisco, IBM, Microsoft, Palo Alto, Dell, Fortinet, Checkpoint. Now, next thing, if I work for the vendor, I'm going to go sell it to the client. Now, if I work for the company, let's say I work for a bank, now after we've created design, after I've spoken to all these vendors, I got to go back to the CEO, the CIO, the CFO, and the CTO and say, here's the architecture I designed. Now, if I work for the vendor, I'm selling and getting a commission. If I work for the client, I'm still selling the vision. Now, if I work for the client, once it's sold, I go on into a new company. If I work for the vendor like a bank, after I've sold it, I go and do a new architecture project because business is not stagnant and there's an architecture after an architecture and after an architecture. And you won't even be halfway through one architecture project before you're going to be doing a new one. So design, present, and sell. Work for a vendor. Speak to the executives, design it. Work for an end user client. Speak to the executives, find out what you need and design it. Vendor, present it. Non-vendor, present it. Vendor, sell it and collect a commission. Architect, working for a vendor, sell it to the management, and then poof, collect a bonus because you did a good job. Architect, working for a vendor, go to the new client when it's done. When that's done, next thing you need to do is, if you're on architecture, go on to the new architecture. In no case does the architect touch the technology if they're doing architecture work. So it's the same job. That's a great question there, David, and I've done both.
Michael, in an effort to not perform dual studies, at the conclusion of the Cloud Architect course, what certification would you be prepared? What should we be prepared to take? I know you don't like them, but still would like to know.
Okay, Michael, I'm going to make it very clear. You can have every certification in the world and nobody cares. I'm going to say it again. No one cares. So you're basically saying, like, look, Mike, the patient's already dead, which drug should I give them? Well, none, they're dead. So, let's keep about this. So I will be honest with it. So as long as you know that the certification serves one purpose, to help you get an interview, the certifications that we train our people for are the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional, the Azure Solutions Architect Expert. We want people to get one of them, not both. And we teach TOGAF. Why? Because TOGAF is a good architecture framework. So those are the things that we kind of deal with. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So Certified Solutions Architect Professional, TOGAF. Azure Solutions Architect Professional, TOGAF. Azure Solutions Architect, TOGAF. Now, I still like a networking, data center, or a security certification. I like GOP. So like the AWS Advanced Networking to me is kind of a joke. I would call it an intro to 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 junior level networking, where the Cisco Certified Network Professional is a networking certification. Now, it's not a CCIE or a CCDE, but it's still strong. So, if I had an Azure Solutions Architect Expert with the CISSP and a TOGAF, I'd say, yeah. If I had an Azure Solutions Architect Expert with the CCNP and a TOGAF, I'd say, yeah. So one, networking and data center. One, why? Because the cloud is just somebody else's network and a data center. Here's the problem. You can do the Certified Solution Architect Professional and still not even know what cloud computing is. How do I know this? I interviewed 1,000 AWS certified people and they couldn't even define cloud computing. So there's that. So that would be my certification thing. But really, Michael, focus on being a great architect. And why do I say this? Because I've got people like Delroy Batt that got a cloud security architect job with no cloud certifications. I've got people like Robert Welch, who we trained, that got a great cloud security architect job with a cloud practitioner. I've got Jeffrey West, who got hired at Callian, a cloud company, with a cloud practitioner. But I've got lots of people that have lots of certifications that didn't learn how to be an architect. So that's what and it's not that I don't like certifications, Michael. I do, actually. I just don't like certifications that are a name of a service, how to configure that service, when your job is design, present, and sell a solution. To me, the Certified Solution Architect Professional is like a junior level cloud admin. And truth be told, companies are getting rid of cloud admins. They've existed forever. And why are they getting rid of them? Because one DevOps engineer can replace 30 of them. So why would I need a cloud admin in today's world? And the DevOps engineer can be partially replaced by AI, partially. There's still room for great. So keep that in the back of your mind. But they're the certifications I recommend. And get those, do the training, and I know you're going to be great.
From Shantanu, which is better, the Cisco CCNP or the Cisco CCDE for the networking portion, if Cloud Architect is the goal?
Well, Shantanu, I'm going to give you some real interesting information. So I worked for Cisco for about a decade, and I was a lead architect for about a decade. And when I got my first super high-paying architecture job at Cisco, what my manager said is, Michael, would you remove your CCIE and CISSP from your business card, please? And I said, what? And he said, Michael, he says, I got a problem right now. He says, I'm positioning you to do these billion-dollar architectures. And you have a CCIE on your resume, and the CCIE is going to basically make everybody look at you as a techie. So do you want to be seen as a $500,000 a year executive architect, or you want to be seen as a techie? So I removed the CCIE and I removed the CISSP from my business card. Now, if you're asking me which one is actually more relevant, it's the CCDE. I love the CCDE. I love the CISSP. It is great. But Shantanu, let's talk about, is the juice worth the squeeze? And here's what I mean by this. The average person with strong business acumen skills earns $558,000 a year. And the primary job of the architect is to improve somebody else's business. The CCDE or CCIE is $150,000 to $200,000 job per year in most cases, unless you've got the business acumen skill to learn more. So if I've got a choice, now the CCDE, I'm going to tell you right now, I do love it. I recommend it. It'll cost you $20,000 minimum to pass, minimum. And it'll take you 9 months to 3 years based upon how well you do on these exams. See, the CCIE, the CCDE, it's not like an AWS certification. You know, in the last 30 years since the CCIE has been out there, 60,000 people have passed roughly. So 60,000 people have passed in 30 years. 60,000 people pass an AWS exam per week. So we're not, or per something like that by comparison. I forget the exact numbers, but it's crazy. So, you know, you want to be on that supply and demand curve to have the unique and principal skills. So I love the CCDE, and I'm going to tell you it's better. But I'm also going to tell you what brand are you trying to build for yourself. Do you want to be the executive that can truly improve business, which is the architect's job, or do you want to be seen as the techie? Now, if you wanted to be a network architect, I'd tell you the CCDE probably makes sense. So there's that. Now, would the CCIDE give you great knowledge? Yes, it would. Would I love hiring somebody that has a CCDE? Yes, I would. But I don't hire a techie as an architect. I hire an executive who's an architect. That's the key to remember. If you can do the CCDE and still develop all the business acumen, all the leadership skills, all the sales skills, all the executive presence, all the emotional intelligence and CXO relevancy, yes, great. But you could do an MBA in about the same time as you could do the CCDE. And I'd recommend the MBA any day. Now, look, I've gotten plenty of people jobs without college degrees as architects, but I will tell you the MBA kind of looks good on a resume. And my manager never asked me to get rid of my MBA. He did ask me to get rid of my certifications and take them off of my resume. And that was one of the VPs at Cisco, to put that into context for you. When a Cisco VP is saying, Mike, take off our most challenging, most elite certification from your resume, it says something.
From Lopez, after taking your course, Mike, could we also apply to sales solution engineer positions?
Lopez, we're training people to be architects. Architects and engineers are completely different careers. So and here's the problem. The sales engineer is going to be a hands-on techie. They're going to be a little trained in sales. They're typically very rough around the edges, and they have hands-on skills. They're going to demo their own proof of concepts. The architect is a business executive. They have much more business knowledge, much more finesse, much more polish, much more emotional intelligence, much more leadership skills. So we're going to make you that. Now, could you apply for a distinguished sales engineer role? Possibly yes, because this distinguished sales engineer role, which pays double or triple the traditional sales engineer role, is really more of an architect. So we train people for architecture careers. Engineering will not prepare you for an architect job, and architecture training will not prepare you for a engineering job. Now, I've had some students that went on successfully and got sales engineer jobs out of our training program. The answer is yes, they have. But there's more jobs for architects now than sales engineers. Architects are better at bringing in revenue. They're better at closing deals, and they're more business relevant. So we're seeing a migration away from sales engineers and into into solutions architects. And then the architect can bring the sales engineer with them. It's kind of like the techie to help do the back end stuff. So we prepare people for architect jobs. It's a different career than engineering jobs. So I'd like to say that we give you an excellent preparation for architecture, but I don't want to say that our training would build engineers, because we don't train engineering, we train architecture. And it's a very different set of skills.
Back to Ken, Mike. Are you guys familiar with Andrew Brown, co-founder of Cloud Exam Company and a distinguished cloud community hero? Yeah. What do you think of his thoughts and possibly others about cloud architects?
Ken, Tyrone, don't bring the rest of this. We intentionally ignored this question yesterday. Ken, all I will say is if I thought there was another training program that was out there that was quality, I wouldn't have come out of my retirement to create this. We retrain people from everybody's boot camps, everybody's certification training. So the point is, and I won't speak negatively about anyone, I won't have anything to say that isn't good about people. It is not fair, appropriate, professional, and it lacks class. But I wouldn't be in this business if we didn't need to create a program to retrain people to make them great architects.
Anton, hi, I'm trying to switch careers from a manufacturing background and study for a Google cybersecurity certificate, Mike. Am I wasting my time going the certificate route?
Antoine, you're going to need to learn security, and Google is not security. So here's the reality of security. It's going to involve a tremendous number of tools. Security involves training people. Security involves determining the value of the asset that you're protecting, whether it's intellectual property or something else. Security involves, how do people get identified when they walk in the building? Physical security, do we need armed guards or unarmed guards? How do we lock down the building? What kind of fencing do we need? What do we need on top of the building? Cybersecurity includes what kind of firewalls which we use, which are not going to be made by Google. I can promise you that in 99% of the architecture. It also includes intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, again, not made by Google. It involves security event monitoring systems, again, not made by Google. It involves data loss prevention strategies, typically not done by Google. So what the Google cybersecurity certificate will do is it'll teach you the basics to pass a certification. In the end, you won't have any skills whatsoever. So you're going to have to learn security. So Antoine, we have to first figure out what kind of security you are. And I'll tell you the three kinds. There are security architects like me, which design the security for a business. We design it, we present it, and sell it. There are security engineers called defensive engineers that actually build what I design. That is a security engineer. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Architect, design, engineer, build. Now, the defensive engineer focuses on protecting the organization. An offensive security engineer is hired by companies to hack into them to find vulnerabilities. So, Antoine, we have to figure out what goal you have. Now, the good news is you actually put your goal. Your goal is a security architect. So, no, you won't learn anything of value in that Google course whatsoever. You will need cybersecurity training. You will need people to show you what kind of demilitarized zones need to be designed, how to lock down a demilitarized zone, how to design zero trust architectures. You will need to understand security at layer 1, security at layer 2, security at layer 3, security at layer 4, and security at layer 7 of the OSI operating models. You will have to understand federated and identity and access management strategies to determine who's allowed in, tracking what they did, and what are they allowed to do, and then tracking what they're done, that authentication, authorization, accounting. You have to learn encryption strategies to secure information across the inside of the network and on the public internet as well. You'll need to learn about endpoint protection. Again, this is not in the Google space, which is how do you protect the operating system, host-based firewalls, host-based IDS systems, host-based, what do you call it? So anti-malware kind of things. You're going to have to get involved in these kind of things. You're going to have to get involved in learning how to assess the vulnerabilities. It's called social engineering. Can you find the problems organizations have? Kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Then you're going to have to learn, the things that you can do at the various layers. Get involved with the security appliances that exist out there, because it's not going to be a Google security environment. It's not going to be an AWS security environment. It's not going to be an Azure security environment. It's going to be a combination of enterprise tools. And then you're going to have to look at who needs to communicate with whom in the systems and how you lock and protect them, how to make sure that if I'm talking to Alonzo, for example, that I'm actually talking to Alonzo and not this little terrorist out there pretending to be Alonzo in the background. I'm Alonzo. I think I'm talking to Alonzo and get him good stuff. But in the end, it's my competition or some bad guy that's out there. So, that's the key. This all goes into security. So I would learn security. And, I don't think you're going to get, actually, I know you're not going to get anywhere by just doing the Google security certification. You, generally speaking, you need to be trained. And if you can't go to a training program, which I strongly recommend, at least go through something that's going to be a tight security curriculum. Now, there's a CCIE security that will teach you security engineering, but not architecture. But they'll teach you security, and they'll make sure you know it. Now, the CCIE exam, I can tell you, it cost me $40,000 to do when I was younger. And I have lots of CCIEs that I'm working with today that are able to get through it for $15,000 to $20,000, but they'll teach you security. But, that's the key, Anton. The key is when you want to pick a big career like a security architect, you've got to get the right training. Why don't you join me tomorrow on the How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar? It's completely free. I can interview you. I can assess your business skills if you desire, your communication skills, your leadership skills. We can talk about the skills that are necessary, and it's on Zoom, so it can be a face-to-face conversation. So I really want to help you, and I want to make sure we get you there. And, we can easily get you there, but you're going to have to go way beyond certifications. Certifications will teach you the name of a service and how to configure that service. Here's the problem, Anton. We don't configure anything as architects. We've got to design it, present it, and sell it. And all that stuff in the certification, unfortunately, just doesn't cover it. Join us tomorrow.
Freedom lands again, Mike. What is the difference between a cloud architect and a solutions architect?
Okay, and before I answer this, which I'm going to happily do, if you've got questions, please ask it. Alonzo and I can hang around a little longer, and we'll do so if there are questions. If not, I know I've got lots of things to do, and I know Alonzo's got lots of things to do because I know it's on his task list since I helped give it to him. And he told me, Mike, I think this would be a good idea. What do you think? And he's doing it that way. One of the two. So I know what's going on there. So what's the difference between a cloud architect and a solution architect? Except at AWS, where they made up a silly role for the cloud architect, and the solution architect at AWS does what a cloud architect does. A cloud architect is the following. A company calls me, and I design their systems. I put 50% on AWS, 50% on Azure. I build them in OpenStack Cloud, and I do disaster recovery on Google. Cloud architect focuses on everything, the end-to-end solution. That's a cloud architect. A solution architect works for AWS and designs, presents, and sells you AWS things. Or they work for Cisco and designs, presents, and sells a solution related to this. So Freedom lands, why do I train cloud architects and not solution architects, even though many of my cloud architects take solution architect jobs? Because it's the same job, basically. Because 98% of organizations are multi-cloud. 98%. Which means the things that are taught in an Azure certification, a Google certification, or an AWS certification can't be used by 98% of customers. Wait, what? I'm getting certified and I can't use any of this stuff? That's the key. So there are things which work across clouds. A virtual machine, which VMware made in the data center in 1999, an Azure virtual machine, an Oracle virtual machine, an AWS EC2 instance, and a Google Compute Engine instance are all the same. A cloud architect knows that. Now, I can use Kubernetes and run my workloads across 3 clouds. No big deal. I can use a proprietary thing like Elastic Compute Service, which I would never recommend using. And doing so, I'm locked into AWS and I'm handcuffed in and I'm like a prisoner to AWS. Is Elastic Compute Service bad? No, it's fine, but it's proprietary. And proprietary locks your customers into bad long-term solutions, but Kubernetes works everywhere. And a cloud architect would use Kubernetes because it'll work. A cloud architect would also know I can't use Amazon Aurora and I can't use DynamoDB either, or Amazon Redshift. Throw that garbage away. Instead, use an Oracle database, which works on every cloud, or an Apache Cassandra database, which works on every cloud, or a Mongo database, which works on every cloud. And then the really thoughtful cloud architect can say, well, my write load is greater than my read load. We're going to choose Apache Cassandra. Or my read load is greater than my write load. Let's use MongoDB, because we can plan it out and architect it by the actual needs. So that's really the difference. And it's not that these AWS services are bad. They're great databases. They are. They're wonderful. I'm going to say they're 95% as good as the other stuff that you could buy, like MongoDB or Apache Cassandra. 95% is good. But it's not that we're doing it for the 5% that's better. is that once you use a proprietary system, you can't work with other clouds. Now that becomes a nightmare, and that creates a new level of technical debt that organizations are going to have to spend millions or billions of dollars trying to figure their way out of. So a cloud architect is doing that enterprise architecture function. They're thinking about the business, they're thinking about the business strategy holistically, and they're putting in a place that they're not going to just be okay today. They're going to be okay 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or 20 years from now. Because the cloud architect is paid on their client's success. The solution architect is going to be paid on the person selling just Azure stuff, or just Google stuff, or just AWS stuff, or just Cisco stuff. Now, as a cloud architect, I might work with the AWS solutions architects, Azure solutions architects, and Google solution architects all at the same time, because they're going to be the experts. AWS knows their cloud better than anybody else out there. I promise you they do. They know things that they can't put in documentation because there's internal things. So if I'm a cloud architect working for a bank, I'm going to talk to AWS. I'm going to talk to Azure. I'm going to talk about Google. Heck, I might even put them in the same room one day and make them work together with me. So that's the difference. Cloud architect is a bigger role. Now, a cloud architect, because they're trained in cloud, can go work as a solution architect any day. But most solutions architects don't have the skill to work across multiple clouds at the same time. And keep that in the back of your mind. Great question, Freedom Lands. Please ask us your questions so we can assist you in your career.
Lopez again. Will the non-live classes, Mike, be okay till I can afford the live classes?
Lopez, the answer is yes. So here's what the live versus the non-live version of the program. I always recommend the live. And personally, I would for me, spend an additional $30,000 over the live classes over the non-live. Why? Because being there is really helpful. But Lopez, guess what? I've had plenty of people that could never make it to a single live class that watched every single recording and did great in the non-live program. And if somebody ever needed to upgrade, they could upgrade to the live program on a monthly basis if they needed, just to have access to the live classes. But the answer is yes, you'll probably be fantastic in the non-live version. Definitely, definitely, definitely. So keep that in the back of your mind. You will do well, and you can be upgraded at any time. And it's only the difference between the pricing. So you'll be good to go. And yes, we created the live classes for that reason. You know, when I started, I took loans. I mean, don't get me wrong, I borrowed like $20,000 from my brother. Thankfully, he had a good business at the time and he was generous. I also took out a personal loan. I maxed out my credit cards. By the time I was done, it was like, wow, I had $40,000 to pay for it. And I paid it back in about 3 months with my new job, which was really exciting news for me because I was petrified of it. But the point is, I invested in myself. Thankfully, the level of technology we have at Go Cloud Careers is incredible. We were able to save basically 90% by designing and running our business on an OpenStack cloud, as opposed to using the public cloud. Saved us 90%. It was incredible. As you can see, we're using some pretty cool technology to speak with you right now. We have the best video audio gear. We hired an audio engineer who basically does big concerts to tell us how to do our audio engineering. I hired lighting experts to put studio lighting in the office spaces that we have here. We're using professional 4K and 8K cameras to make sure that everything sounds good. So you're going to do great. And the point is, if you ever want to upgrade to the live classes later, we'll make it as easy as possible for you. As easy as possible. So you'll do great. I'd be honored to work with you. I know Alonzo would be honored to work with you. I know our entire team would be. And guess what? If you need more on the live, you'll get it. Then if you don't, you'll be fine too. All we care is if you take our course, and I'd love you to take our course, please do the work. And I know this sounds crazy, but I don't want to just sell somebody a course. I want to change their life. I want to know that when people buy our course, you know, they have a career waiting for them. So I don't want you to just buy it. I want you to do the work. I want you to do every assignment. I want you to turn in your architectures. I want you to turn in those video things. I want you to practice your interviews and I want you to practice the resume training, the brand building. I want you to do it all. And I want you to tell me when you're hired, because I have a happy dance. I've got one bad foot, so it doesn't look pretty. It's kind of me moving in the hips. It's not great. But the point is I like to do my happy dance every time somebody gets hired. And Lopez, I would be more than honored to work with you.
Couldn't have said it better, Mike. Join up, Lopez. We're looking forward to it. Christian, when selling a large solution for instance, 20 million plus, who would all be in the room?
Christian, when you're selling a solution that's say 20 to a million to 100 billion, $100 to $1 billion or more, it's not just going to be one meeting. So you're going to have one meeting where it might just be you and the CEO, you and your sales rep and the CEO. You'll have another meeting, and in that other meeting, what can we say? One day it'll be the CIO, just you and the CIO will bring a trusted advisor and maybe the CTO. There'll be other meetings where you're going to do executive briefings where you may have the CEO, you may have the CIO, you may have the CFO, you may have the CTO, you may have a couple of VPs or senior directors that are as well in the meeting. You will also be presenting sometimes in front of a large audience to the client where there may be 100 people in the room. So it's going to be depending upon the level of meeting that you'll actually be in. And that's really the key. So, keep that in the back of your mind. So it's going to depend on every meeting. Now, the more strategic you are, and the better your business skills are, Christian, the more likely you can keep it a small meeting, maybe the CEO and the CIO and the CTO. And if you can get it small like that, it's good. But there are days where you're going to also have to present to the technical teams. Now, when it comes to managing stakeholders, Christian, and it comes to sales, we have to think about the four kinds of people we have. There are some people that we just have to keep informed. There are some people like the CIO that must say yes. If the CIO doesn't say yes, your architecture doesn't get sold, and it turns into PowerPointware, and nothing good happens. There are people in the organization that nobody cares about. That doesn't mean they're not important, but there are people that you don't even have to worry about. For example, the receptionist, who actually I think is a very valuable person, it doesn't often matter if they say no. I personally recommend treating the receptionist wonderfully, and I treat everybody wonderfully. And quite frankly, Christian Smith, when I interview people at a big company, do you know what I do? I leave them intentionally waiting in the waiting room for about 5 minutes, and I ask the receptionist, how was that person towards you? Because I don't want to hire somebody that's only good to me as the manager. I want someone that's also good to the receptionist, because I want somebody that's good. And then there's people like the engineers that can't say yes. They can't say, yes, I want this, but they can also say no. So you got to kind of bring the engineers along for a ride. So there's part of it. So ideally, you've got a sales engineer working with the engineers to get them to say yes, and you're focusing on the executives. Now, sometimes you're going to have to focus on the engineers and the executives, and that's all going to be dependent upon what you're doing.
From Amanjino, please forgive me if I mispronounced your name. How easy is it to get remote cloud architect positions?
Well, most cloud architect positions are remote, but let's talk about what I mean by remote. If I'm in Mexico City, for example, which is a big city I've done a lot of work in, and you want to work out of your house, that's fine, because there's lots of big clients that you could go to in, say, Mexico City. If you are in New York City, you can work and live in your house in Princeton, New Jersey, and drive to your client site. If you live in Palm Beach, Florida, like I did during most of my architecture career, I got to live in my house and I got to travel via airplane to my clients. And one day I'd be in Dubai, another day I'd be in London, another week I'd be in San Jose, California, another time I'd be in New York. So we kind of have to find ourselves in a position that we need to live clear. We can work remote, but we have to be close to an airport. Now, do we travel like we used to? No way. No way. I remember traveling 200,000 miles on Continental Airlines one year and about another 100,000 miles on American Airlines in a single year. We don't really have to do that anymore. But in those days, we didn't exactly have good video conferencing. And quite frankly, I was carrying my BlackBerry, which couldn't even place phone calls in those days, but I could check my email, which was the coolest thing ever. Because I worked from home, I'd respond to email almost 24 hours a day, and nobody ever cared about me working from home. Now, granted, I had the thing beep, so if it was between 7 a.m. and midnight, I would just respond to the email. It was easy. And then I would sleep at night, and people would leave me alone. But, that was kind of that. But most of these jobs are remote. Is it hard to get a cloud architect job? No, not at all when you've got the right skills. So the answer is not hard, but it all depends on being able to live near a major airport. That's kind of, generally speaking, important, unless you live in a big city. If you live in Mexico City, it's a huge city, you probably don't need to live near an airport. So there's a good airport. If you live in New York City, you probably don't need to go travel to an airport. Why? Because there's a lot of business there. But if you're like I am in Palm Beach, Florida, there's not a lot of Fortune 100 companies headquartered in Palm Beach, Florida. Lots of surf shops, lots of golf courses, lots of great restaurants, lots of hotels, but they're not going to pay $500,000 for an architect to go work at the hotel. But in New York City, a big bank will. So I hope that makes sense. You have to be near your clients because why are we meeting with our clients? Well, it's the following. One of it is relationship development. It's hard to sell somebody something if you don't have a relationship. So the architect job involves a lot of lunches, dinners, drinks with your clients, meetings, those kind of things. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So yes, it's not that hard. Yes, you can do it. So are there any other questions? Otherwise, Alonzo and I have some things to do with the rest of our day, so I'll give you about a minute or so to do so. I will tell you while I wait that I've had other jobs, and the architect career is the best job I've ever had. It paid me well. It supported my vacation homes, one in Greece and one in Florida when I lived in New Jersey. It enabled me to send money home to my immigrant from the rest of my family in Greece because we were immigrants. And it gave us the ability to take care of others. It gave the ability to take care of my retirement and retire early. I was treated with respect and dignity and love everywhere I went. And I was treated like a treasure. So I love being an architect. But really what matters is that you love what you do. So as a reminder, if you're looking for your first cloud architect job, guess what? We've got a completely free guide that's going to tell you exactly how to get your architect job. Come download it. It's free. We popped it in the chat box for you. If, by comparison, you want to join us tomorrow, the completely free webinar on how to get your first cloud architect job, I look forward to meeting you. And it'll be on Zoom. We're going to have a great conversation, and I promise you we'll do everything we can to help you get your first cloud architect job. And it's completely free. If you're already working as an architect or you're working in a tech role and you're not earning what you want, you're not getting the respect that you want, then please get the completely free Why Tech Skills Are Not Enough. So take care, everyone. It was nice to see you. Hopefully tomorrow I'll at the webinar. Take care, everyone.
Have a good one, everyone. Thanks for joining us.